Today's conversation is on being as you are to experience loving, harmonious relationships. As we've been discussing over the year now, you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. Not because I said so, not because another person said so, not because society said so, not because society did not say so. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. We can call that true self-acceptance, unconditional self-acceptance, radical self-acceptance. The fact that you exist is love, and you can choose to, if you would like, experience love in and as loving relationships. Whatever you consider as loving relationships. This is the key distinction. See, a person may have been looking around in this world and forming conclusions as to what love means to them. They may be looking around at people, they may be looking around at society, they may be looking to books and videos to determine what love should look like and form conclusions that that is how they should experience love. Now, as a result of identification to these particular beliefs that were formed in mind by looking around to see what other people are doing and convincing themselves that they should be that way, as a result of identification to that particular programming or beliefs, they may notice that relationships have been playing out for them in an inauthentic way. That is because perhaps they never questioned those beliefs before they identified with them. That a relationship should appear this particular way. This kind of relationship, use your imagination, this kind of relationship is the kind of relationship that is a loving relationship. And while that may be true for the individual that inspired them, it might not be true for them. So what I'm proposing here is relationships provide us an opportunity to be as we are and also enjoy authentic, loving relationships with another person through the practice of being as you are. What I mean by this is, let's say you are interacting with a person that you're interested in. Let's say you're dating. Let's say you're in a relationship with someone. They say something or don't say something. They do something or don't do something. And that may trigger a particular belief in mind of limitation. That belief seems to suggest that whatever they're doing or not doing, saying or not saying, determines whether you are loved or not, whether you experience love or not. What is interesting is prior to identifying with that belief, as we are aware of the belief, mental chatter or imaginal activity may appear in mind, suggesting illusions of separation from love, illusions of separation in mind that, let's say, play out as theater in mind of a person doing things, not doing things, and then you say, if they did this, then love. If they didn't do it, then not love. Illusions of separation-based mental programming may appear in mind from these past beliefs. That's what's generating these illusory programming scenes, let's say, in your mind. As you transcend them, and you know that that's conditioning love, if you can be still and not identify with that programming, I trust you've noticed this, that relationship transforms. And what does it transform as? It transforms as authentic, loving relationship, the way you truly desire love to appear. or we could say the person changed, or you changed. What I say is, from personal experience, I am being as I am. Knowing that I am love for no reason at all, love automatically appears to be, we could say, added on to me in the form of love, which is true and authentic to me, all by taking the opportunity in that moment to release that condition. That is what I mean by being as you are, to experience authentic, loving relationships. This is true however you define relationships. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. That is who I am. That is who you are. So I choose to experience authentically love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment in relationships. And I may be presented with opportunities. You may be presented with opportunities to release programming. During the dating phase, relationships, prior to interaction, during interaction, after interaction, I suggest, I recommend, as I have seen the benefits of doing this for many years, and also my clients have seen the benefits of doing this for many years, to experience authentic, unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment-based relationships, I suggest taking the opportunity to be as you are, if that programming appears in mind. So the programming was formed perhaps by looking around to see what other people are experiencing in relationships, what society considers to be relationships, best practices, let's say, which is an illusion, because who determines what is best practice or not? I recommend going within, connecting to your intuition, following your heart and intuition. Your way is the best way. And your way being the best way actually plays out as loving, harmonious relationships with another person, as it mirrors their best way. I trust you've noticed this. So this condition may have been formed in mind at a particular point. And it was generally, for me personally, a result of looking around and suggesting to myself that based on how another person's doing it, or this movie, or this book, or this video, or what is on TV, etc., that kind of relationship that I see there is the kind of relationship that I have. It could be with family as well. The kind of relationship that I need to have, more specifically, in order to feel love. And while those kinds of relationship configurations, styles, etc., might be authentic for those individuals, I never questioned the programming before identifying with it at a particular point and said, that is how I should experience relationships. Now, over the years, I have actually found that it was not true in many ways. In certain times, yes, I did see relationships where I said, that is the kind of relationship that I desire to experience in whatever kind of regard. Maybe how they're relating to each other on a particular topic. And that felt authentic. Yet at times, I was doing it for areas that did not feel authentic. I just thought that if another person does it, then that's how I should do it. I didn't check in with myself. Again, no shame and condemnation if we've done this before. Now is where the opportunity is. So, essentially, over the years, what I have been practicing, which has been very helpful for me, is prior to interactions, during interactions, and after interactions in relationships. And again, this can be applied for whatever kind of relationships, although we're focusing here now on love and romantic relationships. So essentially, if I was about to become identified with a condition of love, rather than doing that, I stopped. I became aware of when I was about to become identified with that programming. Maybe it's mental chatter suggesting illusions of separation that appear in mind from love, or imaginal activity appearing in mind that suggests that it needs to be this way or that way to experience love, which again is a condition, or emotional reactivity or convoluted behaviors. I'm aware of what I think, how I emotionally relate, my behaviors in that moment. I realized it didn't feel authentic. I realized I was conditioning love. So I let it be. I let it be. I allow the emotions to be released. If there was, let's say, strong emotions, the mental chatter that suggests illusions of separation in the relationship, inharmonious thinking, I let it be. Behaviors, emotions regulated, and what happened was mind became purified from that programming. And then what happened was the relationship played out authentically and harmoniously. And it worked out to be in a mutually beneficial way. Now, if I say, oh, this way I consider it to be mutual beneficial, that, let's say, the person behaved in a particular way and I behaved in a particular way, you may think that that's the way relationships should be. So I'm being very general here. So you could think for yourself and consider this, regardless of how it played out, as I did not identify with the conditioning that I once formed in mind, for whatever the reason may be, the relationship then played out in a way that was authentic to me, which we could say is a form of unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment playing out. And it also appears, and I trust you've noticed this, that the other person genuinely also wants to do that same thing. Use your imagination. They want to have that kind of relationship, which may be different than the kind of relationship that we see other people having within our immediate awareness. But interestingly, I have found is that I tend to find more people that have that kind of relationship as well. So this goes very deep because the individual may be identified with so much programming that conditions relationships to be in particular ways that are not authentic. So every date, every interaction with a person, every interaction with your partner, every interaction, or let's say even no interaction that you have with the person that you're interested in, is perhaps revealing programming of conditions. And if we release that programming, the relationship plays out accordingly in a harmonious way. And it may be something that you've never experienced before or never thought of before. Yet, when you experience the relationship that way, it feels authentic. What's fascinating about this kind of experience is it feels childlike. I have noticed at times the other person say the same thing that I was imagining that was authentic. We experience it as being children in a playground. Because consider that this is how children are. Let's say a child on a playground who's not identified with programming and accepts themselves as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all, is experiencing love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. A person may say it's because of the playground, yet they experience it everywhere. They see someone that they're interested in going and playing with, they go up to them and they play with them. They don't think about what to say. They don't worry about what people think about them. They don't worry about what the other person thinks about them. Intuition. They genuinely desire. As I always say, who you desire desires you. It turns out the other child genuinely desired at the same time to have that experience. And they play together on the playground. Now, over the course, let's say, of months, years, decades, the individual may be forming programming that seems to generate illusions of separation, illusions of separation, illusions of separation from the fact that they are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and no shame and condemnation. And over the course, this could play out as inauthentic relationships, inharmonious relationships that are based on programming rather than the sure foundation of being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, like the children on the playground. And so what happens then is all this convoluted behavior in relationships. The child wasn't looking around to see how other people were experiencing relationships to determine how they should experience relationships, provided that they weren't doing that. Rather, they had this very authentic experience with another child on the playground. I believe that we're still in the playground. That's how I experienced my life, as over the years I have been releasing this conditioning. That's why I created my subconscious mind program, because this programming is stored in the subconscious mind. Again, the individual is looking around to see what other people are doing in relationship over the course of months and years and forming conclusions and saying, that's how I should have my relationships be. Is it really true? And maybe they're having experiences in relationships with people, dating, relationship after relationship. And after these relationships end, or the kind of experiences that they have in the relationships, they're forming more and more limiting beliefs in the subconscious mind that are further away from the truth, let's say, of the fact that they are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And as a result of identifying with this programming, their relationships appear to play out this way. It no longer feels like the kind of playground relationships as a child. Not my experience now, I'll tell you that, as a result of releasing the programming, by taking the opportunity to be as I am. So over the years, all this programming, no shame and condemnation, we could release that programming by doing the following very specifically. Anytime you interact with another person that you're interested in, prior to interaction, during the interaction, after the interaction, when they're in your immediate physical presence, or if they're not, if you ever imagine them, don't imagine them in a way that generates illusions of separation. Don't imagine them in accordance to that programming. It's crystal clear. You could see it doesn't feel authentic to imagine them that way. It doesn't feel authentic to imagine the relationship to be that way. Just don't identify with that programming. That is being as you are. Because you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So why would you identify with imaginal activity that suggests otherwise? Now, what happens as you don't identify with that programming is mind is purified. And I trust you've noticed this. That person now appears more so as authentic form of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. The relationship appears as an authentic form of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. All by being as you are. All by not identifying with that illusory thinking. If strong emotions or emotions arise, feel them being released. Remember, radical self-acceptance. Unconditional self-acceptance. True self-acceptance. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. If imaginal activity suggests otherwise, don't identify with it. Be as you are. And the relationship transforms. Now, what does it transform as? Well, here's what I found, as stated in the Bible. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things added unto you. What happened was I've noticed this many times, and I continue to notice this, is relationships play out in interesting new configurations, we could say, new ways, or even some of the previous ways that I had prior to identifying with the illusory programming of separation. And I'm fascinated by it. And it feels authentic. Your heart is open. You no longer feel fearful, practically speaking. For those that are dating, they see someone that they're interested in, they walk over to them like they're on the playground and start a conversation with them. During the interaction, authentic communication, not trying to be someone that they're not trying to pretend, fake, completely natural. What they say, what they don't say, their behaviors flow. And it's wonderful to witness that interaction. You feel childlike again. During the interactions with the individual, the relationship unfolds in interesting ways, loving ways. And as it unfolds, even in ways that I never thought of before, which we can say pleasant, surprising ways, I can honestly say that that is a form of love. And it's unconditional love. What do I mean by that? As in, I didn't say it needs to be that way to experience love. Or if it does not appear in a particular way, then it is not love. There is no conditions there. The conditions have been released, and love continues to unfold, we could say. All these things are added onto you. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment is experienced as, let's say, curiosity. Interesting ways they appear. Like a child, for example, who has never been in a relationship before, has never identified with illusory programming that they formed as a result of, let's say, relating to relationships in an inharmonious way while they were dating and while they got into long-term relationships. Like a child like that, again, the reality of God, which is good, perfect, and pleasing, as stated in Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world. This is how we not conform to the patterns of this world. There is no need to look around to what other people are doing, saying about relationships, and then suggesting to yourself that that is the way relationships should be for you if it doesn't feel authentic. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. And the good, perfect, pleasing will of God, as perfect love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, is automatically added onto you as wonderful, harmonious relationships, pleasant surprises. See, a person who tries to control things may think, no, I have to force it to be this particular way to experience love. They're conditioning love. I have to force it to be a particular way to experience bliss, peace, happiness, fulfillment. That is an illusion. The illusion of needing to control things is unnecessary. We can release it. And it's wonderful to release it. I have been doing this over the years, removing these conditions. And what do I experience relationships as? My style of relationships, my individual style, the way God designed my experiences in relationships to be. And that is what I call unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, because I don't need to condition it according to what standards. Why do I need to look around to what other people are doing? And while I can be very inspired by the kind of relationships that other people have, such a diverse array of styles of relationships, I can be inspired. Yet ultimately and inevitably, we can say, you and I go within and discover within and imagine ourselves being in that kind of relationship. Feel ourselves now as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and remain as we are. And then it's experienced as our individual style of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Because your way is the best way. It doesn't mean that your way is the best way and it's better than my way, or my way is the best way and it's better than your way. It means our way is the best way. And if our paths cross in friendship, business relationship, then so be it. It plays out as harmonious relationships. Same is true, as mentioned, with dating and romantic relationships. The kind of relationships that you desire to experience, the style, structure, what you do, what you don't do, is authentic, natural, and unconditional by being as you are. So again, being as you are does not mean identifying with illusory programming of separation. That's not what I mean. Those are conditions, part of the false identity construct that is made up of beliefs. I'm talking about the true identity, the fact that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. By being still, you acknowledge the stillness means love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Silence means love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. The fact that you exist is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And you can be as you are prior to interactions, during interactions, and after interactions. Practically speaking, to apply what we're talking about here, anytime that you're on a date, about to go on a date, if you got into a relationship, if you're in a relationship, if you're out of a relationship, anytime you feel a limitation about to become identified with that suggests that if a external condition is met or not met, then you can feel love, then you can feel peace, then you can feel happiness, then you could feel bliss, then you could feel fulfillment. Be still. Release that identification. It's not authentic. It's not who you really are. Who you really are is beyond condition as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And as you release these conditions, you witness, and I trust you've noticed this, this has been my experience as well, and everyone that I've worked with throughout the years, relationships appear harmoniously. And I have no desire to put a bias into the equation and say this is how they should look like, or this is how it will look like, or not look like. What I can assure you is it appears in a way that is true and authentic for you. Your style of relationship, your style of relationship configuration, and it may be radically different than what other people are doing. It may be rare. It may be like what other people are doing in your environment, etc. It may or may not be. I personally have no concern about those details. All I know is that when it does appear, it feels natural. It feels authentic. All by being as you are. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto suggestion to further encourage. You could say, by being as I am, I know myself to be love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. As I remain as I am, relationships appear naturally to be added onto me from the premise of my true nature. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. They appear more so with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive, revealing my heaven on earth now.